Antman and the Wasp Quantumania has arrived, and with it some not so kind reviews, so I think it's fair to say this movie is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but for me, I gotta say, I was quite pleased with it. But before we get into my thoughts on this film, if you've seen it, drop your comments down below on what you think of it. And if you haven't seen the film, with these reviews, where is your excitement level for it right now? All that will be great to hear, but let's get into what I think of Antman and the Wasp Quantumania.
Everything you call a life, I will burn out of time.
When Scott Lang and his family find themselves trapped within the quantum realm, they are forced to embark on a mission that will push them beyond the limits of what they thought possible as they come face to face with Kang, the Conqueror. Now, to start off with what I really appreciated from this movie, it was the exploration of the quantum realm itself. This is a place we've seen little glimpses of now and then in past movies, but never truly dived into until now. And seeing this weird and wacky aesthetic and different worlds, creatures and the way of life throughout the hidden universe, I thought was a great part of this movie, even if at times it did go on just a little bit too long. Additionally, Quantumania keeps what has always been one of the strongest elements of the Antman movies, and that's the sincerity of the family dynamics. Scott, Hope, Janet and Hank are all really good here, with Cassie now being a more integral part of the team due to the fact she's grown up a lot since the last movie, mostly thanks to Endgame's time jump. Catherine Newton, I thought, did a real nice job here in the role, and the character herself was a very strong part of the movie, and follows in Ant-Man's steps very closely in the sense of always wanting to help the little guys out. Cassie has a great line within the film about just because something isn't happening to us doesn't mean it isn't happening at all. She is very much a freedom fighter in this film, and the film did a nice job at exploring standing up for what's right. Now, Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne took a much bigger focus here than we've ever seen of her character before, and she did a fantastic job and has a plethora of great moments sprinkled over the movie, and it was nice to see what she got up to over the 30 years since she was trapped here, and what her disappearance from the quantum realm sort of meant for it and those who she encountered within it. Now, another quite centric part to the Ant-Man movies have always in many ways been the humour of them, and since Thor Love and Thunder completely botched the idea of being able to tell a story without just injecting a joke or silly moment every 2 seconds, I can't lie, I was quite worried to how this movie was going to do that, especially since it's going for a darker story than the previous Ant-Man movies have. But I am very glad to be able to say that Peyton Reed managed to strike a good balance between this movie's tone and injecting the typical humour we would expect from an Ant-Man movie and the characters within it. I didn't think this movie was as funny as the first film, for example. It did have a lot of tonal whiplashes going with it, and a fair few jokes that just didn't entirely land as much as I think the creative team thought they would, but it still kept its charm. Our action this time once again engages with the set pieces and is never dull or boring, but I would like to see it be a little bit more creative going forward if we have an Ant-Man 4, for example. Now, before we talk about the big standout of this film, the visual effects here are fine and serviceable and have some really great and amazing looking scenes in this film through it, but at other times it does have a fair few or so poorly composed shots with this distracting like brown filter over them. There's going to be moments in this movie you think look good, and there's going to be moments in this film that you think look bad. But Marvel have just recently announced that they are slowing down a lot of these Marvel projects to focus more on the post-production side of things, so hopefully we can get back to a consistently looking great movie going forward into Phase 5. But with that out the way, let's talk about Kang, because wow, he is fantastic in this movie. Jonathan Majors dominates the screen with this unmissable presence, bringing so far a fantastic, scary and cunning villain to the tables of the MCU, which respectfully has had its fair share of struggles in this department over the years. The story here does an incredible job of fleshing out this version of him and fueling him with so much rage, and once he's introduced into the film in what I would say is a around the second act, it kicks heavy to the metal and goes into full gear to deliver an epic and thoroughly entertaining, while tense sprinkled third act with a refreshing, to the MCU at least, and great hand-to-hand combat sequence that is teased just a little bit in the trailers for the movie.
I don't have to win. We both just have to lose.
Additionally, in this movie, in the sort of villainous role, is MODOK. He was actually pretty good, and I would be lying if I said I didn't love him in this film. Although, I would have liked to see him have a little bit more purpose in the movie, and do a little bit more in the actual story itself. But nevertheless, I gotta be honest, I liked him quite a bit, but not everyone's going to, and that's fine. And now, I just want to give some praise to the end credits of this movie. Without spoilers, I'll just say I think a lot of us have felt a little bit let down as of late from Marvel's end credit teasers and such. But here, what they sort of present and give to us is both intriguing and very exciting for what's to come in the universe, shall we say. I'm quite interested to see how it all plays out, but I think a lot of people are going to be quite happy, and they're definitely going to get talked about a lot. However, as much as I did enjoy this movie and I did have a lot of fun with it, there is a little bit sprinkled over it that is not so good or fun at all. To start with, as I mentioned, the film does have quite a few tonal whiplashes where the jokes don't land, and the moments just take place in this section that don't really make a lot of sense. You know, you'll have a scene and then it tries to break it up with a joke and it somehow just pauses the whole scene around it. Doesn't really make sense, and it kind of bothered me just a little bit. Speaking of cutting away from genuinely interesting characters or moments, we do that more than I would like in this film, and most of the time it's to go back to this character who just screams to me and the people I saw this movie with, Valkyrie 2.0, but far less compelling or even remotely interesting. I understand what they were going for with this part of the movie, but it just did not work for me at all, and I found it to be a pull on my attention to what was happening in the movie. I would have much rather focused spending time with things I was at least intrigued by and liked and building them up more than I would on this character, because I just don't think there was enough reason for them to actually be in the film, and it just didn't work for me. I think this movie was pretty good, and I did enjoy it quite a bit, but I think it would have been even better and elevated if we had had a shorter runtime with some better pacing that didn't cut back to so much that I didn't really enjoy or that I thought took away from the story in one way or another. But that is pretty much all I can talk about in this film without diving into specific moments or scenes or character motivations and such, essentially spoiler territory, and I want everyone to experience this movie with as much spoiler-free thoughts as possible. So I hope you guys are able to do that. I hope you do enjoy the film, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Take it easy, guys. Bye.